Hello and welcome. I'm Lori. I'm CEO and founder of Caasi Products in Portland, Oregon. So thank you so much for stopping by to see our presentation. It'll take about 10 minutes. I'd love to tell you a little bit about how the company came to be, tell you more about the product and why we think it's special, and then share with you some clips from a conversation that I had with some of the nurses at Leap 411. Not only are they informative about our product specifically, but they're also informative just about CBD consumption in general. I am a cancer survivor. I had breast cancer and I'm cancer free now, fortunately. That experience completely made me reassess my life and rethink what I consume and what I put on my body. I started to read labels more carefully. And I really wanted to be able to help people that were going through cancer treatment because there's just a lot going on when you go through an experience like that. I wanted to take some of the work out of it. And I started an e-commerce business, curating really useful items for people that were going through cancer treatment. At that time, adult use in Oregon was newly legal. So I wanted to offer a cannabis kit, but I knew that I had a lot of homework to do because I had limited experience, and my experience when I was much younger was not a good one. And unfortunately, I bought into the stigma. I was wrong. I thought cannabis was for people that want to get stoned or people going through cancer. And I went to a conference for women in cannabis and met so many interesting people. The education that I had was just invaluable. I met healthcare professionals. I met cultivars and farmers. I met chemists. And what I learned then and there was so impressive to me that I pivoted. I shut down my business and started this business because I am sure that I can help not only people going through cancer, but help other people in addition that have different reasons for use.
Our drops are not a sublingual tincture. Again, they're meant to be added to liquid or food, but the most common way is to add them to water. And you can see that there's also a cloudy whiteness to it, which is completely normal. Our intent was to add as few ingredients as possible. The hemp CBD is an isolate extraction, so it's 100% pure CBD pulled from the plant. So there's no THC involved, but you can see the ingredients involved on this next slide. And the source of the hemp comes from a farm in southern Oregon that has biodynamic and organic farming practices. So just a few reasons we think our product is special and different than what's on the market. It's not a sublingual tincture. It does not go under your tongue. It goes in beverage and food. It's quick acting. It takes about 10 minutes for onset. It's mild in flavor. You can hardly detect a taste. Most isolates can be very bitter. It is potent, 30 milligrams per serving, and it is very cost effective.
What's really important to know is that your isolate is different because it is fast acting. A lot of people expect even sometimes their tinctures to be fast acting, and that's where they get their misinformation. It's important always to read the label. So if there's any allergies or sensitivities to MCT oil or sunflower oil, I think they need to be aware of that. People aren't really using enough milligrams of CBD to get the medicinal benefits of it when they're using 10 milligrams or something like that and saying, oh, it helped me sleep. There's almost just like a placebo effect to that. It shouldn't really be benefiting them that much until they're in those kind of milligrams, which are around the 30 milligram serving sizes. From personal experience, I tried your product. I didn't know how much the sample size was. You always got to read the packaging, and I didn't read it. So I put a full dropper of the sample size because your sample size is tiny.
It's 3.7 milliliters, and a suggested serving size is 1 milliliter. So it's approximately a little over 3 servings.
And you can buy it on your website for how much?
$8.
We always say, if you can try something first, let's buy a couple of samples. Let's try it before you go into the big bottle. And in that sample size, one little dropper full is 30 milligrams. And I just assumed it was only going to be one or two. So I put a full dropper in my coffee one morning to test it out. I didn't feel much, but I never put stuff in caffeine. And I think that's another teaching moment, that if you're
Mhm.
going to put it in caffeine, you're going to feel the effects of the caffeine. So I think that's very important to say, put it in water. Each morning I increased the dropper. So then I said, well, I think I felt it, maybe not, but you shouldn't really feel something with 30 milligrams. I always tell people, you're not going to feel like you took a Xanax or an Ambien or Valium. It's not that whoosh, now I feel it, I'm in the couch, chill. It's just an overall feeling of calmness. So then the next day, for 4 days, I put full droppers in, seeing where I would hit the sedation, because at some point you're supposed to feel sedation when you have a heavy amount of CBD in your body. Well, after 4 dropper fulls, I hit it hard. And it was shocking to me because I had never felt like that from a CBD product. So it was phenomenal that you could get an isolate product, no THC, and still get that sedation. If 30 milligrams isn't quite beneficial for you, go up to 60 milligrams, which would be another dropper full. There is a point where you're going to hit sedation when you hit heavy enough of milligrams of CBD into your body. With your product, you definitely feel it. People that I guide to an isolate are going to
Mhm.
be those consumers that THC is something that they should be cautious about for whatever their reasons are. The one person I guided to couldn't tolerate THC at all, but
Mhm.
needed the sedation because this person had high anxiety at night. So
Yeah.
that's where your product, I think, shines. For
Mhm.
anyone that just can't have THC but needs sedation and needs calming, makes you feel tired,
Mhm.
but you're not impaired or
Mhm.
intoxicated.
Like, even in lower doses, what's nice about it is it can be a daytime product too, so you
Hmm.
don't feel intoxicated, and with lower doses, you're not sleepy. You're still alert and just able
Yes.
to do your thing, but it just takes the edge off.
A lot of our public don't realize that CBD is actually mind alerting on its own in low doses. So not until you get into those higher milligrams does it become sedating.
Well, since you're talking about Dosan, that kind of
Sure.
segues into one thing I wanted to ask you guys about Dosan. What I suggest them trying it with the water, but I'm just emphasizing to experiment. I think a lot of people get confused about why I can't just say exactly how much they should take for their weight. So how do you guide people with learning to dose?
We don't consider body weight unless they're pediatric patient. What we do is, we go with a suggested serving size and we can titrate higher or lower. The rule of thumb is always dosing as few milligrams as possible with what you have, because
Mhm.
even if you undertreat, you are going to not miss what we call the therapeutic window. You always want to go beneath it and then start climbing up to where you hit that window and you find it. We caution people that it's a journey and to start slow and go very slowly up, because someone like me who could use 30 milligrams, somebody else could feel what I feel at 10 milligrams. There's no exact dosing for anyone. Everyone is different. Every human body reacts to it differently.
CBD has been shown to not show up on drug tests like THC. CBD itself does not show up in typical urinalysis, and that THC is our offending molecule that typically shows up.
There are products on the market that may say little to no THC, but then there might be. So we really encourage all of our public to obtain a certificate of analysis. Do you provide one on your website?
I
Um,
do. We provide it on our homepage, our product page, and then we have a little card that we put in the packaging when the shipment goes out that has a QR code that they can also scan.
for the
Yeah.
product so that they can keep that with them. They can see it. They can show their clinicians that they're not taking a THC product if they have concerns about that. So that's wonderful that you have it accessible. It's one of the reasons why your product was even vetted for by Leaf 411, is because we want all the companies that philanthropically give to us very transparent with the public. Pharmaceutical interaction may be something to be cautious about. There's competing compounds that go through that liver. Your prescribing physician knows that pharmaceutical, can look up that pathway in the liver that CBD goes through. It's called the P450. the prescribing physician, that's their responsibility to know, does this prescribing medicine go through that pathway? Ask your prescribing physician if what they prescribe goes through that same pathway. If
Mhm.
it does, then we have potential interactions. And then doesn't mean it's contraindicated, and there's a difference there. Contraindicated means you can't use it, but interactions just means you have to work around it.
Yeah.
Typically, when we're concerned about pharmaceutical interactions, we're looking at milligrams in the hundreds of milligrams a day of CBD. That's when we're worried about interactions. When we're in below those hundreds, when we're in the 30, 60, 90 milligrams of CBD a day, typically there's no concern about interactions.
Thank you for being here today. And I would like to remind everybody that for the first 25 people that sign up for our newsletter, we'll send a 3.7 milliliter trial size bottle of our water soluble beverage drops. It's a great way to try it for free. So we hope you sign up. And now we'll go on to 5 minutes of live Q&A.